Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're in our new studio that Rick Rube designed and built. We still haven't shown you around enough yet. We want to get it all ready and set up to do that. But we had a great time last weekend at Crossroads of America camp meeting there in Mattoon, Illinois. Man, the services were so good. You've got to try to next year come back, come be with us. We'll probably go there again. We do that every year. So much fun. And if you're anywhere near Los Angeles, we'll be in Murrieta, California this weekend at West Coast Life Church at 9 a.m. and 10:30, and then we'll be in the LA House of Prayer that afternoon. We'll have a good time. So we're coming to you every week to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord. And we always talk about the rapture is signless, but the second coming has tons of signs. And in our book, I think it was like 79 or 80 signs that are there. So it's pretty amazing how God puts so much scripture in the Bible to show us what's coming. Why? Jesus said, when you see these things come to pass, lift up your heads, your redemption is drawing nigh. So he doesn't want you downtrodden. Isn't that amazing about a thought pattern for the coming of the Lord? He wants you excited. He wants you expectant. He wants you happy. I say it this way. How many of you were happy the night before you got married? I hope you were excited the night before you got married. So what a great thing getting ready to happen. We're about to see Jesus face to face. It does not get any cooler to see the author of life, the shepherd and bishop of our souls. We're going to see him. So let's pick up what's happened around Israel. So many things are happening that are pretty forthcoming to show us like, okay, this is it. Jesus is just about to come. I know we say that, but let's pick up on what's happened. You had, number one, you had 3 Israeli soldiers killed down on the Egyptian border. You had an Egyptian police officer that came across and ended up shooting those guys. And so much talk of war around Israel. The AP, the Jerusalem Post, all the different sites go, it's the most radical preparatory stage for war like never before, permeating throughout the land. Even to the point the defense minister Gallant said about Hezbollah from the north. Remember how Hezbollah has amassed. Now think about this. Hezbollah, just to the north of Israel in Lebanon, which they're set on being a proxy for Iran, they've amassed 130,000 to 150,000 rockets. And Gallant said about Israel's defense secretary said about Hezbollah, we will bomb you into the Stone Age. And you hate to see the rhetoric for war, but you love seeing a bold statement coming from Israel, because it should be that way. Because if God be for you, who can be against you? So you have more rockets that were fired from Gaza into Israel. Israel retaliates. Then you got Hezbollah that's ready to do this. I think probably the main thing I think about is Iran. Several things came up about Iran. Iran has tried to capture a couple vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. So then you've got America working with other countries there to police that area. And the United Arab Emirates even backed out. They said, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore because nothing happened to Iran. Iran pulled some boats over and America didn't even intervene. So the United Arab Emirates said, why in the world should we risk our men if America won't risk theirs? So there's some weird stances being taken by the U.S. when it comes to all that. Our country keeps saying we're going to negotiate a deal with the Palestinians. And then our country says we're going to negotiate a deal with Israel to have perfect relations with Saudi Arabia again. So there's all this stuff coming from America, but it doesn't really happen other than America saying that Israel can't do any more settlements in the West Bank. You've got Blinken, which is in Saudi Arabia this week, talking about that. The first thing he talked about, though, was settlements, and that was not what he was in Saudi Arabia for. But you have with Iran, when their nuclear program, you have the United Atomic Energy Agency say they're going to complete their investigation with Iran by saying everything's fine, when they said Iran hasn't complied with anything. And then they found enriched uranium in all these sites that isn't supposed to be any kind of enriched uranium. And then there's even more happening at the underground site. So listening to the background talk and the verbiage with all that, people that are in the know say they are ready to have a weapon, and not just one weapon, they're ready to have about 10 weapons. So Iran unveiled a brand new hypersonic missile that can get to Israel. And listen to this. They said right at 400 seconds. Divide that out in minutes, that's 6.6.666. So in 6.66 minutes, you have a missile that could hit Israel. So listen, Israel's not going to let that happen. And the reason why Iran is touting that is because Israel came out and said, you know what, we're going to blow you up, because they can't let it get to that place. Remember how Stuxnet had to come in on the scene and stop them before? You've got Russia doing weird things. You got that the dam was blown up in Kyiv and all that flooding going on there. It looks like there's still plenty of water for the nuclear reactors there. But then Russia got a brand new Su-34 fighter plane. So it's all being set up. America talked about China pushing things in the Taiwan Strait. So China saying, look, we're ready for war. And America's basically saying, we know that we're almost at the point of war right now. So all these things point to what the Bible said you see just before the coming of the Lord. So the exciting thing about that is we're not to have any fear, but we're to have a readiness, and not an escape theology, but a hustle theology. All this preaches to us that, man, if you can see the finish line, let's run even faster. So all of these things show us how close we are to the Ezekiel 38 war. So we go back to the scripture. Number one, Israel made a nation. Jerusalem won back. Jesus said the generation that sees those two events will not pass away till all is fulfilled. So you have those main events. You got the language restored, the Hebrew language restored. Got the Ethiopian Jews brought back in one day. You got the fertility of the land of Israel. You have the revival of the Roman Empire. Pretty amazing. You got foxes show up on the Temple Mount. You had fish show up in the Dead Sea. You had the Dead Sea turn blood red on the Day of Atonement, right where Sodom and Gomorrah was. So you have the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water. Pretty wild. All these things happening because we're right there where the Bible is literally coming to pass right in front of our eyes. So with that, you had the archway for Baal worship get rebuilt in Palmyra. Russia did that. That's where the Tower of Babel was. So all these things coming to pass in our generation. I hear people, could you get me that drink right there, babe? All these things coming to pass in one generation. I've heard people say, oh, these have all happened before. No, they've never happened before. We're very unique to be the only generation that's had that coming to pass. So we're blessed to literally have the heads up on it and then be that generation. So there's more. I mean, you got men will be lovers themselves. You have selfie sticks. You had Bishop Malachi in the year 1129 AD. He had a vision of every pope that was going to be on the earth. He got the coat of arms for 114 out of 114 popes. Pretty amazing. And the pope that we have right now is 114th. A few weeks ago, the pope came out and said there's no hell. So radical things happening right in front of our eyes. Then you go from signs to signals. You had the blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. You had 4 in a row. When's the last time you had 4 in a row? NASA calls that a tetrad. But you also had asteroids this last weekend on Sunday. You had 3 do flybys. One was the size of 50 yards in diameter. That's a huge asteroid. So you have the blood red moons on Passover and Tabernacles. The last time was 1967, 1948, and 1492. Then you had the Bethlehem star this last year. I mean, that's remarkable. And Jupiter, Regulus, and Venus come together at the birth of Jesus. The constellation was Virgo. And this last year, it happened again, first time in 2,000 years. The constellation was Leo. He's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So the heavens are getting ready for this. The earth's getting ready for this. I love it that the heavens will bow in adoration to the second coming of Jesus. How it'll be the only light you'll see. The sun won't give its light. The stars won't give its light. But there'll be this light coming out of heaven. It'll be the glory of the Father in the face of Jesus. The brightness of the glory of God will be right there behind Him coming back at the second coming. Let me tell you, every knee's going to bow, every tongue's going to confess that He is Lord to the glory of God the Father. So all these signs we talk about are the setup for the King to come in here at the very end. Well, we're going to go up in the rapture about 7 years before that, so all the more we should be in a hustle mentality. So what do? Help our local church, help our local pastor. We're more involved, we're more engaged, we're on point doing the will of God. This is the time to not be on the fringe, but to be right there in the very middle of the will of God. He loves you. He wants to bless you. He wants to encourage you. He wants you happy. He wants you hopeful. He wants you expectant. So as we see these things, let's let that bring us great joy, and that'll bring us great strength to finish our course. So we'll come back this next week. We'll look at all the things that have happened. I usually forget 2 or 3 things, but many, many, many things are happening that point to the coming of the Lord. How exciting to be living in the last of the last of the last days. Have a blessed, wonderful Wednesday. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.